Winter is coming. This is the final part of a 3-part series looking at project management lessons we can learn from the HBO TV series A Game of Thrones and the series of books A Song of Ice and Fire by George R.R. Martin, on which it's based. In part 1, I looked at the general principles we can learn from the Game of Thrones storyline. And in part 2, we drew lessons from the words of some of the great houses of Westeros. And in this part, I want to see what insights we can gain from the words spoken by some of our favourite characters. Because one of the joys of the books and the series are the numerous witty, wise and thought-provoking quotes that the author and the show writers put in the mouths, especially of some of the main characters. If only I could pick out some personal favourites, but no. I promised you quotes that would have project management lessons, and so I will. But happily, many of these are favourites of mine. And the first are the words of Tyrion Lannister. A mind needs books, like a sword needs a whetstone.
Well, my brother has his sword, and I have my mind. And a mind needs books like a sword needs a whetstone.
How is it that no one said this before George R.R. Martin wrote it down? It's a brilliant quote. It needs no interpretation from me. The lesson is simple. Project managers need to be always learning. Read books, magazines and articles. The next is spoke by the wildling character Ygritte. You know nothing, Jon Snow.
You know nothing, Jon Snow.
What better warning could an author give their readers not to trust what they think they know? And it applies to projects as much as to the world of A Game of Thrones. So my lesson is this. You don't always know what you think you know, and you certainly don't know what you don't yet know. So keep an open mind and check everything.
You know nothing, Jon Snow.
In the books and in the TV series, Tyrion Lannister gets a disproportionate share of the great lines. So I have a second one from that character for you. Most men would rather deny a hard truth than face it. In this quote, Tyrion implies that his awareness of his own shortcomings strengthens him, and he's right. The characters who ignore what should be plain to them have a habit of dying. It's Tyrion's cripples, bastards and broken things who understand their status and who thrive. And I suspect that may be a clue to who survives the final episodes of the last series. And this quote highlights something that I've observed in stakeholders and in project boards and in project sponsors. But most important, it's the reason why a project reporting cycle is so important. It compels us to take a fresh look, an objective look at the facts of your project. So the lesson is that we need to deal with the hard truths before they shatter your project and you. We don't see much of business and commerce in A Game of Thrones. The main touch point we have is the Iron Bank and the character of Tycho Nestoris. And this is what he says. Here, our books are filled with numbers. We prefer the stories they tell, more plain, less open to interpretation.
Here, our books are filled with numbers. We prefer the stories they tell, more plain, less open to interpretation.
Anyone who's read my books and articles may recall that I'm fond of quoting the lawyer Jaggers from Charles Dickens' Great Expectations. Take nothing on its looks, take everything on evidence. And here's a new version for me to embrace. So, the lesson for me is obvious. The facts are what matter. Everything else is opinion or fiction. My last example is a favourite with the fans. It comes from the character of Lyanna Mormont, a young woman barely more than a young girl, in charge of a major family.
I don't plan on knitting by the fire while men fight for me. I might be small, Lord Glover, and I might be a girl, but I am every bit as much a northerner as you.
Indeed you are, my lady. No.
I may be small, I may be a girl, but I won't be knitting by a fire while I have men fight for me. Yes, here is everyone's favourite show character, channeling Queen Elizabeth I at Tilbury. But what has this to do with project management? A project manager needs to lead. And sometimes that means rolling your sleeves up and putting your hand deep down the drains. You don't need to be able to do everything that your team members can do. That isn't my point. What you do need is a willingness to lead from the front and to do your share of the nasty tasks. So my final lesson of this series is that project management is leadership. And leadership means standing at the front. So there you have it. I've given you 15 lessons from one of the most popular works of fiction so far this century. I'd love to hear what lessons you draw from your favourite scenes, plot lines and characters. And if you can draw your own insights from the words spoken by some of your favourite characters, let me know in the comments below and I'll look forward to responding to them. And if you've enjoyed this video, please do hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. I look forward to bringing you more project management content.